good morning everyone. I'm Jenalu Minerva and I'm going to discuss about simulation and games and designing informal learning activities. For the objectives of our topic, first, understand simulation and games. Second, know the basic pattern of simulation. Third, define formal and informal learning. And fourth, know the principal guides when designing environment conducive to informal learning. Simulation. It presents the learner with real-world scenarios and allow them to explore the scenario in a safe environment. A basic pattern for this is to present or show the desired end result. Next is try or allow students to safely try the result out. Then evaluate if the student is able to complete the task. And the last is play, which allow them to play around with the concepts in an engaging way to deepen their learning. Simulation watch. It is one form of an instructional simulation asks learners to watch a procedure or skill. One of the more common forms this simulation can take is the software simulation. So, a software simulation is essentially showing someone how to do some actions on a computer by recording your screen. Simulation try. The next kind of simulation is one that allows students to try a skill or procedure themselves. This allows the learner to engage with the content and practice it in a safe environment. So there are various applications that can be used for creating a try simulation. So when you create a try simulation using an application, you should consider including ways that students could possibly fail. So failing is part of learning. It can help the learner see what happens if they select various alternatives, as well as help them consider how they can recover from their mistakes. Simulation evaluate. After the learner has watched a procedure and tried it out for themselves, you may need to ensure they know how to perform certain tasks. So this is where the rule of evaluate simulations come into play. So evaluate simulations help both you and the learner judge if they are able to perform a task they have just learned. So the most helpful evaluation simulations are one that allows the users to fail and learn from their mistakes. The key here is to try to make the simulations as close to the real environment as possible. Simulation play. The last type of simulation allows students to play with ideas or concepts associated with the instructional environment. Playing helps learners work with the knowledge they have gained in different, engaging ways. The goal is to help them take what they learn and apply it in novel ways so they are able to master it better. There are three important considerations for play simulation. These are theme, progression, and challenge. First is theme. A theme is a unifying core to your game that helps express its purpose and bring a sense of harmony between that purpose and the tune, visuals, audio, video, text, and other elements you create. To immerse learners into the game, introduce a theme as soon as possible, perhaps expressed by using a clever or unique logo. This helps the learner know they are exiting the standard instructional format and entering a gamified environment. Next is progression. Progression is how learners move from the beginning to the end of your game. and how they navigate through the steps in between. So progression is a principle you could use in different ways. As the learner moves throughout the game, they clearly see where they have been along with what levels or cards were successful or unsuccessful. The next is challenge. Challenges are how you present instructional content and allow learners to interact with that content. In our game, or just like what you have seen in the picture, when the learner chooses option on our progression board, they begin an individual challenge. So these challenges can come in many different forms with varying levels of challenge between the tasks. So one way to challenge the learner is through a standard question. If the learner gets the answer incorrect, they will see some kind of visual indication and perhaps some feedback. Just like as you can see in the first picture. So the students got the incorrect answer. So its feedback is, sorry, 100 points removed. So, but if the learner gets the correct answer to the question, they will see correct feedback. Congratulations, 100 points added. But you can present challenges in ways other than through questions. You can also add some more ambitious aspects into each challenge, like having them try a procedure or a skill. Also, this is a game. You might want to have an overall score that is visible to the learner. So when the learner gets the challenge correct, the score increases. To make it even more challenging, points could be taken away when the learner does not answer correctly. You could also add a timer or other sense of urgency for students to complete the game. Simulations and games require you to manage interactions that students have with the program, such as when you have to pass information from one screen to another based on how students respond to a question. So with this, there are common three ways of managing interactions in simulations and games. First is variables. So variables are storage locations. They hold information that can change or be updated later. So the most common type of variable for a game is the number variable, which will store a number value. So this is perfect for scoring or being able to calculate end results in a final interaction. Next is triggers. Triggers are events that happen in a simulation. So for instance, when a button is clicked, what should happen next? So in many instructional authoring tools, you'll use triggers to show and hide different elements based on how learners interact with page. The next is conditions. Triggers are great, but there may be times you only want the trigger to happen if a certain condition is true. Consider the following statement. If you are happy and you know it, clap your hands. This is a simple statement, but it reflects so much of what a condition is. It starts with the keyword if. So meaning we only want this condition to happen if certain conditions are true. And the conditions are if you are happy and you know it. So we are checking for the two conditions, then running the actions if the condition is true. Before I will proceed to the next topic, let me give you a conclusion about simulations and games. So the goal of this kind of instruction is to help the learner first understand and then be able to apply what they are learning in safe and controlled environment. So simulations and games are great tools for doing this, allowing learners to test the new concepts before entering the real world, practice mastery, through fun and engaging games, and try scenarios in an environment that allows them to fail and learn from their mistakes. The next topic that I'm going to discuss is all about designing informal learning environments. But before that, let us differentiate first what is formal learning and informal learning. According to trainingindustry.com, formal learning refers to a type of learning program in which the goals and objectives are defined by the training department, instructional designer, and or instructor. So that means that a formal learning happens in the classroom, in the training facilities, or e-learning course. So that is an example of formal learning. While informal learning, it can be defined as the pursuit of any knowledge, skills, or understanding that occurs outside a formal or non-formal learning event, such as a classroom, training facility, or e-learning course. That is according to Dirksen 2015. So informal learning includes also family discussions at home, googling a topic on the internet, seeking advice from a colleague, visits to museum, and other everyday experience. So that's according to Livingstone 1999 and Bell 2009. According to Sefton Green 2004, he stated that informal learning is used quite loosely to describe many kinds of learning that occur outside the schools or other formal settings, rather than pointing to a specific definition for informal learning. He proposed that learning environments be evaluated on a scale from informal to formal on two criteria. First is the organization of the curricula, and the second is the setting. Let's evaluate learning environment. So as you can see in the picture, it shows here a spectrum. So you can see the setting and the curricula. The vertical line stands for settings, in which the upper part of it is formal and the lower part of it is informal, while the horizontal line stands for a curricula, in which the left part of it is informal and the right part of it is formal. So let's see the examples of formal settings and formal curricula. These are traditional K-12 schools, in-person new employee orientation, and self-guided computer-based training. So you can see here at the upper right part of the spectrum. Well, examples for formal curricula and informal settings, these are virtual online K-12 schools and virtual new employee orientation. An example for informal curricula and informal settings, these are podcasts, blogs, and social media. And the example for formal settings but informal curricula, example for this is informal professional development. These are the examples of activities or learnings that can be seen in formal settings and informal curricula, or formal curricula and informal settings. Since we already know what is informal learning, let us now discuss its four principles that are effective guides to consider when designing environments conducive to informal learning. These are the four principles. First, provide learners a choice in their learning. Second, design for collaboration, idea sharing, and peer interaction. Third, leverage the benefits of constructionism and project-based learning. And the last is leverage the benefits of gamification and playful competition. Principle 1. Provide learners a choice in their learning. Instructional designers should deeply consider how learners are going to interact with content. For teachers and professors, developing a syllabus, allowing the learner a choice in their learning experience can have a direct link to intrinsic motivation, according to Cordova and Lipper 1996. So consider providing several options for an assignments or exams and allow the learner to decide which assignment looks most relevant to them. Or rather than assign a topic for a project and allow the learner to submit a proposal of a topic of personal interest. Principle 2. Design for collaboration, idea sharing, and peer interaction. While teamwork, collaboration, and group projects are all components of formal learning, informal learning is also well suited to benefit from social interaction. Albert Bandura argued that most human behavior is learned observationally through modeling. From observing others, one forms an idea of how new behaviors are performed, and on later occasions, his coded information serves as a guide for actions. So, when a specific knowledge is needed by an individual, a personalized informal experience in the form of coaching or mentoring will allow a novice to learn directly from an expert. So, a learning experience that centers on group work and peer interaction will invite informal learning to take place as individuals pose questions to and receive answers from their teammates and colleagues. So, to do this, consider assigning group tasks or project to your students or posing problems that require multiple individuals to complete. So, a technique to take advantage of the unscheduled nature of informal social learning is to design a wiki or forum system that leverage the knowledge of the community in a socially constructed manner. Principle 3. Leverage the benefits of constructionism and project-based learning. So, constructionism and project-based learning are two additional areas where we can design informal learning opportunities. With constructionism and project-based learning, learners typically become active participants in the experience and learn organically as they work through a challenge. So designers working to implement informal learning principles can include opportunities for exploration and creation. Principle 4. Leverage the benefits of gamification and playful competition. Playful competition and gaming are proven mechanisms for increasing learner engagement. So according to Steinkuhler and Square 2014. While the principle holds for formal learning, it is particularly effective in designing informal learning environments. Gamification is a relatively recent term that describes using game thinking and game mechanisms in non-game contexts to engage users, according to Dieter 2013 and Stentkuhler and Skier 2014. So the key criteria for an effective gamified design are exploration, immersion, socialization, and competition. So to design for exploration, it is important to design an experience that does not necessarily have a single path toward a solution. So this allows the learners to truly discover, explore, make mistakes, and iterate. So while to design for immersion, it is important that the challenge be such that the only way to solve the problem is with dedicated, focused time over an extended period. So, for example, learners can build or produce an artifact from scratch. So, solve problem that requires synthesis and application of multiple concepts simultaneously. Also, it give or receive feedback to or from peers or experts where they must refine their work as part of final decisions. So while to design for competition, it is helpful to consider something that determines one or multiple winners. So challenges with levels, simulations, scores, badges, and leaderboards are features of competition that you can incorporate into your design. Now, let us identify the strengths and limitations of informal learning activities. So, the learning activity tool, which is the first column, example for this is project or problem-based scenarios. So, the description is projects or problems allows learners to appropriately struggle through arriving at a solution. So, the struggle area is essentially the zone of proximal development where informal learning occurs. So, its strength is can be address multiple learning objectives with a single problem scenario. It can be accomplished in small groups, thus alleviating the need for a high number of experts to provide guidance or help. While its limitation, it costs potentially very expensive to execute. And talking about time, potentially very time consuming to design, execute, and evaluate. Another activity is coaching or mentoring programs. So the description for this, an example of social learning where novice can learn directly from someone who more expert. So the cycle of practicing or trying, receiving feedback, and trying again is strongly supported by an expert who serves as a guide. So the strength for this activity is close proximity to relevant expertise. Another is feedback that is very specific, timely, and personalized, often 1:1. While the limitation for this are, in terms of time, often difficult to design a program that requires so much time of someone's senior in experience. So it is also challenging to find one or let alone many individuals with seniority willing to participate. So for another activity, the job aids, wikis, tutorials, or internal forums. So description, a strong collection of relevant resources is generally superior to formal instruction. So in contrast to formal instruction, these resources require little cost, take little time to design and produce, and are extremely tactical in nature. So its trend, the cost is minimal. The speed is utility is all that matters, so they can be created quickly. And crowdsourced information is often highly actionable. While its limitation are potential lack of monitoring and governance. Because utility is most important, they can sometimes be poorly designed visually. So another learning activity is the communities of practice learning networks or external forums. So for the description, a community of practice is designed for and by the interested participants themselves. So the strength for this, its cost typically free or inexpensive. So typically more broadly applicable than information in an internal forum. So maintenance and governance. While its limitation is can be overly general, example, not applicable. The last activity is exhibits, museums, and or performances. So description, exhibits and museums are open spaces that encourage exploration and even learning through failure. At a performance, an individual learns through observation. So the strengths of this are exhibits and displays can be highly engaging. Socializing with other attendees, participants is common, thus inviting the social component of informal learning. Observational learning is also very effective. While the limitations for this, the cost is entry can be potentially quite expensive, while the time is to maximize learning at a performance or museum often refers multiple hours minimum. So that's end my topic. These are my references. Thank you for listening.